Welcome back to the Beyond Business podcast. Today, we're sitting down with Amanda. She is one of our client managers and our digital ads manager. So she has a wide range of expertise to help you in your business. We're going to have a great conversation touching on brand logistics, brand strategy, maybe even using negative reviews to positively market your business and ideally find your perfect client and customer. So if that intrigues you, jump into the conversation. Amanda.
Yes.
Thanks for joining me today.
Yes, I'm excited.
A riveting conversation.
Yeah.
Exciting. And we can pool our collective wisdom and intellect. So
yes,
let's see where it goes.
I am excited.
So both of us are client managers here at Beyond Blue.
Mm-hmm.
You also oversee digital ads and a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
We've both been doing it for several years now. So I thought it might be interesting to pool our wisdom and give people a perspective of maybe what makes a good client or what can make their marketing succeed. So I had a few questions, but as I told you before, maybe first thought, in your head, what makes somebody a successful client with a marketing agency? Maybe not even just us, but if somebody's wondering, am I ready for an agency or to ramp up my marketing? What would make them stand out and successful as we're servicing them?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think in the time that I've been here, we've seen a lot of different personalities and different clients kind of come on board, but really the ones that are the most successful with us and just for their own businesses as well are the ones that actually put in their own work in kind of the same capacity that we do. So yeah, I think a lot of times business owners, they look at marketing sort of in like the wrong perspective. So they might have like come to a halt in their business and, you know, maybe they were relying on just one thing and now it's not working. But, you know, really with marketing, you want your business to already be successful with you doing, you know, all of the things that you're supposed to be doing. And we then come in and we take it to the next level. And
Sure.
I think that's where relationships can be the most fruitful because there is that true desire and passion from both ends to really make a good partnership. So those are really the best clients who, they're boots on the ground as well. And they're doing all the things they can do and we're doing all the things that we can do for them that, you know, they maybe don't know how to do or don't have the tools to do. So
right. They're not under the expectation that they can just hand it all off and walk away.
Right.
And it'll just run without them.
And that happens like a lot, which is fine, but you know,
it's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah, that's why we're here. But that can a lot of the times cause a lot of roadblocks,
Right.
and there's just a lot of miscommunication or misunderstanding of,
Yep. How to make things work.
Yeah, that was a very long answer to a simple question.
That's okay. It was great, profound.
Yeah.
It actually plays in well with one of the other ones I had a note down in terms of, I heard somebody explain this. Maybe it's a Colorado spirit of the great frontier and the Western triumph to like pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But in that word bootstrap, as you said, we often thrive with people who have, you know, got their business rolling, they're growing, they have some processes and are ready for maybe a little more fuel. Have you noticed any common mistakes? Maybe we're taking over a campaign and we don't have this in place, or this was done poorly, and now we maybe instead of just jumping right in, have to play some catch up and repair. So maybe the title is like common bootstrapping mistakes. What have you seen where it's like, man, if I could get ahead of somebody and they could do it right, it would set them up for success 3 years when they're ready for, you know, to really ramp things up?
Yeah, I think for me specifically, it really is with ads. I feel like clients, I feel like with ads, it's obviously very personal to them and they want to be so involved in how, you know, their business is being represented. But really like that's what we do best is we know how to exactly represent you to be successful. So a lot of times when I'm, you know, making ads for clients, there's a lot of resistance if they are, really opinionated about, you know, even just what the ad looks like, or even when it comes to like the verbiage that we're using, when really, you know, 9 times out of 10, when we take campaigns and really just make them our own and, you know, run them with the client's best interest in mind, those tend to do better.
Sure.
You know, clients will often want like super long copy in their ads, or they want something that's like super simple and is not speaking to their target audience. So I think that's the biggest thing. And I think just that a lot of times has to be kind of, worked around and kind of getting the client up to speed with, this is what we want to do and this is what's beneficial for you. And they sometimes have to warm up to it before they can really like surrender to us as their marketing agency.
Sure. Or trust.
Yeah, just general trust.
Relationship there.
Us doing the job they hired us to do.
Sure.
But yeah, I would say that's the biggest hurdle. And just, lack of knowledge, I would say, for clients. A lot of times they want to partner with us, but their lack of knowledge, regarding marketing in general, really, hurdles just general relationships and understanding how things work. So, a lot of times with newer clients, I spend a lot of time trying to have them understand those things so that when results do come in and, things are progressing, they can see things from a good 360 view.
Sure. Yeah, which makes sense. Entrepreneurs are balancing 18 other hats and plates and wearing different things that they need to figure out. And so maybe along the line, I've noticed personalities may be more or less drawn towards figuring out the specifics of marketing. So there's probably a level there of we need them to be dangerous enough in understanding the technicalities of how something works and let us be the experts, but we still want them involved in that process and understanding what's going into it.
Right.
And yeah, I was going to say, I think from my end, piggybacking off of that, I think what I've noticed is we've talked about this hurdle of trying to get someone out of the way so they can genuinely serve their ideal client. Obviously, when people start a business, it's an emotional process where you're part of a brand and a logo and you want your fingerprints and your footprint on it, and it's something you're proud of, which is great. But oftentimes there's this block, like you said, even just with digital ads, but could be the website or the logo or social media. A lot of it might just be, this is what I want to see. This is what I want out of the site. This is what I think this page should do. Maybe not the wrong instinct, but that's hopefully where we can come in and say, okay, well, this is what your ideal client wants. Maybe a little different. Like we need to cater this to them because they're the ones who are actually going to be converting. Do you have anything to build on their specifics, whether it's digital ads or websites or anything else you've seen where maybe working through that to say, okay, it's your business, it's your baby, but we think there's a better way to present it for your actual client and not like you're not the person bring revenue to your business, right? You're trying to service someone else. Right.
Yeah. A big one that comes to mind that me and Leanne have actually been talking about is when it comes to SEO specifically, a lot of clients, they want to rank for like the biggest, most high ticket service that they offer. But really to be able to get to that point, we need to get them to rank and be seen on a wide variety of their services. So even though, they might be ranking lower for, let's say like window installation, but their main ticket is like garage door installation. We want to focus on those smaller things first and then get to the big money for them. So I think it's hard for clients in the beginning to actually understand that. And really conceptualize like the process of how to get to that like evergreen success with SEO. So that's one thing that really clients struggle to understand. They just think marketing's like a one-stop shop. You're going to hire us for the service and we're going to make all your dreams come true.
Sure.
Which we do, but it takes
in time.
Yeah, it takes time to get there, and it's definitely a huge misconception, I would say.
Yeah, we often say we want to walk before we run.
Right.
Yep.
Yes.
Or there was an old creative director we had who used to say the fastest way to kill a bad product or service is good marketing. So, often even just the intentionality of what you're providing, are you doing it well? And sometimes good marketing can identify process holes or things that are not going well, or a poor sales team, because all of a sudden you get this influx and there's no capacity there to manage it. So yeah, I wonder, have you seen anything that's helpful in that process of, like I mentioned, maybe sometimes marketing can open up holes that we service well or been able to consult well. And again, maybe thinking through somebody who is a year or two away from working with an agency, anything they can be focusing on now, like common problems like internal workings that we often see, like I just mentioned and alluded to a few there?
Yeah, I think a lot of times with leads specifically, like we'll get clients leads and they don't actually follow up afterwards, or like they might be slow to do that. So that's one thing that we've noticed, especially on the ad side of we get them leads, but the closing on their end is actually low. So really those types of holes are things that come up throughout those processes as well. So it really is sort of like a give and take with that partnership, because we don't just do all of that for you. You know, there's a lot of work that needs to be done once you do start to see more success and more revenue and you're more busy. And I think for some clients, it can be hard for them to manage because they've gotten to a point where, you know, yes, they want to receive more leads and they want to receive more business, but, you know, getting to a point where that is consistent and there is an influx, sometimes there's holes there with clients where they need to kind of re-strategize internally of like, okay, how do we set our company and our team up for this so that we can continue to scale?
Right.
So, yeah.
Well said.
Hopefully that answers your question, but
Sure. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting just, again, how sometimes, and you might not know, like sometimes you're at that point where you actually need to just jump in and start investing in marketing. It might open up things, but that's, I think, the life of an entrepreneur. You know, there's some fires you're putting out and sometimes they're calmer and then another one might prop up, and that's the joy of scaling and growing.
Right.
Yeah. I wanted to shift on a little bit there. One of the other thoughts I threw your way, reflecting again on our collective experience and what we've seen, what would make a good brand? What excites you when you're working with someone? And obviously we should probably even define what a brand is. Maybe we start there, but ones that have excited you, if you want to name them or even just allude to where they truly understood who they were, what they're for, and how they're communicating to people. Do you have any surface level thoughts there when I throw that your way?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that make a brand a good brand. And I think, you know, as us as consumers have evolved and, you know, how many things that we see on a daily basis of what resonates with us, it's actually really interesting because, you know, what resonated with people before doesn't do that now. And so I think brands have really had to shift in how they reach their ideal customer. And it's become very personal and it's become very intentional. So really with brands that I see that are the most successful is they immediately solve a problem for that consumer, but they also communicate that in a way that lets the customer know, like, I need this product or I need this service. And that's really what gets people to convert, because they need to see your product or your service and think, I need this, or, you know, I am not going to have this problem solved, or this product or service is going to make my life better. So I need to invest in this. So those two things are super important, but also just like branding on a visual level has become so much more, I would say, important over the last like 10 years, because the consumer is getting, like I said, more and more, you know, they care more about what they are consuming and how that even like looks to them on a visual level. Sure. So I think just really having a good brand strategy in place and product market fit is a huge thing. A lot of times we see customers who they have a product or service that they are passionate about, but they don't really understand, you know, the mechanics of, you know, how is this actually going to be better or different than anything else out there? And that might seem like super harsh, but it's really the true reality, because the best brands are the brands that break through that sort of like industry status quo. So you have to be the best and you have to do things different to be recognized. And, it takes time, but those are always the brands that are the most successful, is the ones that kind of disrupt the playing field, even if it's on a visual or, strategic level. So I think those are the main things that really help brands stand out and make an impact on people.
Yeah, you said some really good things there that I think are maybe worth unearthing a little bit. One of them we alluded to brand strategy and product market fit. Do you have, or in our experience, have you seen maybe anything, again, whether it's maybe somebody's just starting out and they are excited about an idea and a solution that they see, anything to help guide that process as they start to find identity for their company, where they can break through some of the noise and get people excited about what they're doing, where they're maybe in this initial phase, or maybe they've been around for a few years and maybe just need to refresh and revisit their brand? And there are questions or experts or things that books they could read or anything in that realm to help them start that process of figuring out, who am I? What do I care about? How am I best serving my consumer as a brand?
Yeah. So if a client is just starting out in an industry that's maybe, already been done for a long time, I think the main thing is you can do it and you should do it, but you still need to find a avenue of uniqueness, like Captain's Pool Care, for example. They are, I don't know if I'm allowed to say brands.
Free shout out. We'll get them a sponsor later.
Yeah. And so Captain's Pool Care, and then also a company, Loop Lock, that I used to work for, they were pool covers. And, there's 1,000 brands out there that do both those services. But what made, both those unique was sort of like the branding of those brands. So for Loop Lock, it was the elephant, and that was sort of their main motto of our pool covers are so strong an elephant can stand on them. And so throughout their branding and throughout their socials, they use that elephant as sort of like their mascot to communicate that. So they made it fun for their target audience, which is like families or maybe adults that just bought their first home and like really wanting to get that message across to them. And same thing for Captain's Pool Care, where they are a new pool cleaning company. But they use their branding and, the parrot as their mascot to make things a little bit more fun and unique compared to just standard pool cleaning companies in the area. So I think for some main and very common businesses, it's okay to enter the space, but you just need to think about the ways that you can make that unique and the way that you can, outdo the people around you and the businesses around you, because there is a lot of competition and there's a lot of things that, other companies might do better than you. But I think it's all about making it personal to you and what matters to you and communicating that to your customer.
Yeah, I would agree. I actually thought of Captains as well. And a few of the people, and the word that kept coming back to me is authenticity, which can be a little overplayed, but I think it's really helpful in the brand world, because oftentimes you might see these brands that are really front facing and doing really well and crushing it. And you think, well, I have to be fun or funny or unique or quirky. And so I think a big part of it is often just trying to take maybe your personality into check, or your leadership team's personalities. The Captain's Pool Care guys, when you meet with them, you get that sense that they like to have fun. They're boisterous. They're outgoing. They like the energy, and they match the energy of like a parrot and kind of that fun reality. But there's other people we've talked with. We have a client right now in the concrete world, and it has to be very professional, straightforward. No one there is probably going to have a fun mascot. So it's a different way of coming about to say, I think for them, maybe what you alluded to there, what are some of the values we have? What do we care about? How are we servicing people? And I think fitting it appropriately within the industry. Where, the concrete world probably doesn't need a mascot, but there's still ways to dial into how are we doing it differently and better, and communicating that in maybe a more unique way. Yeah.
And I think it's all about trust too. I mean, especially like you said, for, like asphalt doctors or someone who's in the construction industry, it's really about building trust and working your way up to that. And that's all through, the service that you provide as well. So if you are, someone new who's going into that industry, you really you need to be very focused on the service that you provide and making sure that's remembered with every customer, so that you can be known for those things as well.
Sure.
You can't just do mediocre work and then expect to be remembered for awesome, driveways that you did.
We'll put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Can't do mediocre work and expect you remembered.
Yeah. So it's just, customers and just consumers in general, they really value trust. And, my dad was in construction for like 30 years, starting at a very young age. And, one of the things that customers always told him were how personable and trustworthy he was. And he never did any marketing for himself ever. And it was just all through door to door. When he was younger, he would leave business cards. But after that, he was, successful just through word of mouth because of the work he did and how personable he was to his customers. So it goes a long way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well said. Well, I think we've set some good principles. I wanted to touch on maybe a few practical examples.
Yeah.
Being in this world, maybe sharing a few things we've seen that catch our attention. I think being in marketing, when I see a genuinely good ad or brand, it catches my attention. So to put you in the hot seat first, there were two that come to mind. I don't know the name of it, but there's, I think, an energy drink or a drink that you've mentioned a few times, as you said, has been done really well. And I feel like there was another one, like another brand or company that you're really impressed with their marketing. I know the energy drink was one of them.
Yes.
Maybe we can start there. I feel like there was another one I can't remember off the top of my head. But anyway.
I don't know.
What about their, I think it's specifically social media and the brand they have. You can name them because I don't know. I can't remember what they're called. But what about them stands out to you and makes them fun and unique?
Yes. Are we talking about the Alani energy drink? Yes. I love Alani. You should sponsor this episode. No, I love Alani. Number one, their energy drinks are like amazing.
It's a good stuff.
But their branding is no other energy drink has done what they've done. And they've taken something that is so simple and consumable that like everyone drinks on a daily basis. Like you've got Rockstar, Red Bull, and all of those have had their like own unique branding, such as like Red Bull gives you wings, and I don't know what Rockstar's was, but yeah, it was good. Only the white ones though. But they did something really interesting because they like just totally glorified the drink. And like what I was talking about before of like with certain products, it needs to be viewed of like, I need this, and that's exactly what Alani did. They branded and totally like kicked their company out of the park with their social media is amazing. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but they're constantly collaborating with like artists and influencers and their whole presence on social media is incredible and their packaging's incredible. They just make energy drinks and nutrition so fun. And, a lot of times and most of the time it's not looked at as that at all. They're doing it right for sure. They are. Yeah. And they're super successful. So,
yeah. As I was thinking through it, and this is a more recent example, maybe it was just because they've had a few knockout ads, but Volvo.
Yes.
We were collaborating and trying to pitch a video project, and I'd sent one recently of a new safety feature, but I remember even, 10, 12 years ago, Jean-Claude Van Damme, I think is his full name. I think he's French. I can't remember his
That's
nationality.
A mouthful. You
haven't heard of this guy?
Say it 3 times fast.
I think he's in like an old Roadhouse movie. He was really well, like acrobatic and insanely flexible, does a lot of stunts. So you have to look it up. But there's a commercial they did 10 plus years ago now. They're introducing a new pickup model that had adjusted smooth steering. And so he's famous for a full middle splits. And so he's standing on the trucks, and as they start to pull away, he does a splits in between them. And so the whole ad is just music and him talking over it. And then I think what Volvo does well, and with this other ad I mentioned recently, they don't talk about themselves or what they do until like the last 5 seconds. And so they pull you into this story and gripping visuals that capture your attention, where I'm now watching a 3-minute video and feel like it was 30 seconds because it was so entrancing.
Right.
And the other one that was recent was a new car they have they said it's like the safest one they've ever built, when the commercials center around like a feature that senses somebody and will stop automatically for you. But they don't mention that until like the last 10 seconds. It really pulls you in. And so I think for myself, I'm gripped by things that tell a good story.
Yes.
And kind of what I alluded to earlier, I think get the company out of the way. If you can, stop being so focused on telling everyone why you're the best and let a story do that.
Yes.
And communicate. And so that way, again, I don't even think this ad, they might have said like the safest car ever, but it was the last 10 seconds. And I still left feeling like they genuinely believe that and care about what's going into it. So maybe you want to elaborate on that, because I think you agreed with that there. But that sentiment of you shouldn't have to tell somebody you're the best. There's a more subtle way of going about that. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think that's like a really interesting thing that a lot of companies are doing now, is they are actually, they're not focusing on, selling themselves is hard. And another example that comes to mind is how a lot of companies have been like advertising their negative reviews.
Yeah, that was the other one I thought of. Was it a chocolate bar or something like that?
It's Oats Overnight, I think. Okay. Yeah, you can get it at Costco, I think.
That was my other example. Please talk about that one. That one I thought was hilarious.
Yeah. So a lot of companies have been doing that, where they, instead of just advertising like, oh, this is great, this is how, how amazing we are, and, whatever, they're really honing in on, hey, we've got 10,000 5-star reviews. Like, it's great that we've got 500 1-star reviews, or whatever it is, and really focusing on the negative, aspects of any business, but really like bringing a humor to it. I keep hitting this thing.
That's okay.
Bringing a humor to it to show that like there's a human element behind that brand as well. Where, like 10 years ago, that would have been like just absolutely forbidden to even think about doing that. But a lot of companies are starting to do that because it's funny, and customers like funny. They like being personable, and they like things that are real. And I think that shows customers that, this is a real brand, and we, we'll laugh at ourselves too if we have to. And I just think it's something that we're seeing a lot more, because like I was touching about, a little bit earlier, is you have to be personable, and you have to show, like I said, that human element. And the more that you do that, the more that customers are likely to trust you.
Right. Yeah. I think the example I think last year, it was a screenshot, and it said something to the effect of too chocolatey, didn't like the flavor.
Yes.
And their caption said something to the effect of like, if you're not a chocolate lover, this probably isn't for you. And so I think it caught my attention because yes, it was funny, and they're laughing at the fact that, it's such a lighthearted review. It just wasn't the right person. But I think to your point, there's this picture to me where they're actually strategically identifying who isn't their target market. And I think there's something there where, I've said this before, if we have somebody who comes in the door and they're kicking off with us and they're starting a campaign, and we're probing and asking, who's your target client? And they say, well, everyone. That to me indicates they're either not ready for marketing, or we need to dig a little deeper and help them define it, because that can't be the answer. You can't everyone can't be your ideal client.
Right.
You should know where the segmentations are. Like even for an HVAC company, every homeowner in Northern Colorado. Well, that can't be true. Let's dive a little deeper. Is it, family homes? Is it apartments, duplexes? Is it people who work a certain job, have a certain pay range? Are you competing on price or service or speed of time that you get there? Those are all things that are going to whittle down who you're actually servicing, because you can't service the $2 million home and the starter home in Colorado nowadays, $350, let's say.
Yeah.
And those are two different people in markets you're trying to reach. So all that rambling to say, I think that one caught my attention because there was strategic, where they're reinforcing people who will like that flavor and like the opposite of that negative view, and then saying, hey, also, if you believe this, you're probably not the best fit for us. You should go find another product that isn't as chocolatey or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So I thought that was so thank you for reminding me. That was the other intriguing example where I thought that was creatively used, of that negative feedback for positive marketing was interesting.
Yeah, I think it's great. Every time I see one, I'm like, I'm going to buy that. That's funny.
So if you want Amanda to buy your products, you just have to take a negative review.
Show me the negative reviews.
Yeah, which we often tell people with GBPs. They might have 55-star ratings and get their first 1-star, and there's a little bit of panic there, which is understandable. But we've always said it does bring a human element. So at a certain point, if you have 5,000 5-star reviews and no negatives, we're going to be a little confused.
Yeah.
Because people are human. Eventually, somebody's not going to be over the moon impressed. That's okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And respond to that negative
Yes.
review because that's important.
Side note for Leanne. You're welcome, Leanne.
Yes.
In our SEO team. I like a lot of those topics, and this has been hopefully helpful to maybe spark some ideas for people. So in this show, podcast, want to have a common ending question of the things we've touched on, or if a new idea was sparked. If you had to give somebody one final takeaway that's going to help them take their business beyond into the next step, what would that be?
Keep working hard, and you need to continue to touch and improve your customers' lives. You have to keep doing that. And we are here to help. And yeah, it's not just a one answer, thing. It's really about continuing to make people's lives better and continue delighting them and doing that right through marketing. So
I like that word, delighting them.
Delighting them.
Yes, let's all aim to delight our clients and customers.
Yes.
Well, thank you. This has been great. I think there's lots of really helpful tidbits for business owners, entrepreneurs, everything in between out there. So thank you for the wisdom.
Yes.
Thank you all of you for listening and watching. We hope this was helpful. Follow us, send us some feedback. We'd love to know how we can improve. But thank you all for tuning in.